ATP as energy currency and different biochemical processes which actually generate ATP like your photosynthesis from simple compounds, and also actually the molecules, actually the complex molecules which are broken down in our system in the respiratory process, that also liberates ATP in the animal system. So this is all about the initial words, that is the how the principle of thermodynamics have a major role to play in the living system. So thermodynamics in biology actually refers to the study of energy transfers, as we know, that occur in molecules or collection of molecules. And whenever we are talking about thermodynamics, we have to look at two important concepts, like concept of the system and the concept of the surrounding. So this is a very, very fundamental thing, that is concept of system and concept of surroundings. So the thing is that what is a system? Whenever we are discussing thermodynamics, the particular item or collection of items that we are interested in, that is very important. A particular item or collection of items that we are interested in, and which could be something as small as a cell or as large as the ecosystem, is called a system. So some unit, and it can be as small as a cell to the extent of a larger version like an ecosystem is a system. While everything that is not included in that system we have defined is called a surrounding. So this is a very, very important concept, and that is what is left out actually outside the system, as you can imagine, that is what is left outside the system is actually the surrounding, that is the whole universe. So we now will move on to different type of system that we have already described, that what is a system. An assemblage of matter which can interact with energy is called a system. It is an assembly of matter which can interact with energy, and a system is separated from its surroundings by a boundary. Because suppose if we consider a cell as a membrane, or a cell is surrounded by a plasma membrane or cell membrane, and that actually demarcates between the inner content of the cell from the surroundings. So a system is separated from its surroundings by a boundary, like an organism, just as I told you, or a fermenter, something like that. And there are different classes of thermodynamic systems. This is very, very important, and I think all of you have some idea about that. There are different types of system, that is the thermodynamics may distinguish three different types of systems: an open system that exchanges matter and energy with its environment, a closed system that exchanges only energy with its environment, and an isolated system that exchanges neither matter nor energy with the environment. Again, we are going to have a few more words on this type of system, so that actually you don't have much problem in understanding. So an open system is one, again I am repeating that the open system is one which can exchange both energy and matter with its surroundings. So that is all the biological systems, mostly they are open, like living cells, living things, and also this earth is also an open system. A closed system may accept heat from the surroundings, but there is no transfer of matter between the system and the environment, that is the universe. So very important. A closed system may accept heat from the surroundings, but there is no transfer of matter between the system and the environment. That is the universe. When heat flows out of the system, the energy of the system decreases. This is very, very important. When heat flows out of the system, the energy of the system decreases. When heat flows in, the energy of the system increases. If the heat remains constant, it may be called an isothermal system. So, in that case, there is no change in heat. Coming to the third type, that is an isolated system. An isolated system has a boundary which is impermeable to both matter and all forms of energy. So, as we have already discussed or explained that an isolated system exchanges neither matter nor energy. So, an isolated system should have some boundary which is impermeable to both matter and all forms of energy, and it exchanges neither heat nor matter, obviously. So, in other words, it exchanges neither heat nor any matter with the surroundings. So, whenever we are talking about concept of thermodynamics, we should first of all actually throw some light on the concept of the system and the concept of the surroundings.
So this is the first part of my lecture on module 8, the last module on metabolism. Basically, the metabolism as is being explained in terms of thermodynamic principles. So metabolism not only just a study of, in your case, in this case, the syllabus has been designed in such a way that the metabolism should be taught that is not a simple different type of reactions, but should be explained in terms of simple thermodynamic principles. So with keeping with that in mind, I have made 4 lectures for in different 4 parts, and the first part is just being played, and it will be circulated to you. I will be circulating to either Suhayan or Bonani because my space, my mobile has a very problem, space crunch, a lot of things coming, and it's very time consuming to delete every moment, a lot of material also being exchanged, and that is why whatever the thing later on I'll be sharing with you basically through either the classroom or I will be sending to the CRs, and CR will communicate to your specified group. আলাদা যে গ্রুপটা আছে সেটাতে শেয়ার করে দেবে, not to actually make clumsy of this platform. This is the word. And second thing is that thermodynamics, to start with thermodynamics, all of us are very much aware of, because you have been taught, I think, the concept of thermodynamics in some other other streams, other subjects, other sessions also. So this is nothing new to you. The only thing is that we'll be teaching, we'll be discussing that in terms of the biological world. So system and surroundings, all of you are very much aware of, and different type of surroundings, what I have explained, and the open system is a living cell or something like that, human being, everything, and closed system you can imagine like a pressure cooker, tightly with the lid tightly kept. So pressure cooker may be an example. An isolated system, maybe thermoflask, may be an example. So these are the preliminary concept of the system. Then we will be moving on to more important top concept, because that is the thing that actually directly being connected with your biological laws and biological principles, like the first law of thermodynamics, because we have already have some idea when we have discussed that in the first introductory module, that is Julius Mayer contribution. I know he is the founder of first law of thermodynamics. So let's start first. Start with this thing.
So we have seen that the laws of thermodynamics distinguish between a system and its surroundings. and a system refers to the matter within a defined region of space, and the matter in the rest of the universe is called the surrounding. So we have already some idea about that. A system refers to the matter within a defined region of space, like example of a cell and its inner content, and the matter in the rest of the universe, that is outside the cell, to put it in simple words, is called the surroundings. So coming to the first law, as I have already discussed that, described that actually the whole thing actually is governed by the laws of thermodynamics. So coming to the first law of thermodynamics, it states that the heat is a form of energy, and the thermodynamic processes are therefore subject to the principle of conservation of energy. So in other words, total energy of a system and its surroundings is constant. It's very, very important. Again, I am repeating that the first law of thermodynamics states that the total energy of a system and its surroundings is constant. In other words, the energy content of the universe is constant. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. You are very much familiar with this sentence. So energy is neither be created and nor be destroyed. And what energy can take different forms. That is, energy can be undergo changes from one form to another. Like heat, for example, is a one form of energy. Heat is a manifestation of the kinetic energy associated with the random motion of molecules. Alternatively, energy can be present as potential energy as well, like energy that will be released on the occurrence of some processes. You can take one example, like when a ball is held at the top of a tower, the ball has a considerable potential energy. Again, I am repeating that when a ball is held at the top of a tower, then the ball has gained some considerable potential energy, because when it is released, the ball will develop kinetic energy associated with its motion when it falls. So by placing that ball on the top of the tower, it gains some energy, and that energy is manifested in the form of the kinetic energy when actually it falls. So within chemical systems, potential energy is related to the likelihood that atoms can react with one another. This is very, very important. Within chemical systems, potential energy is related to the likelihood that atoms can react with one another. For instance, a mixture of gasoline and oxygen has a large potential energy, because these molecules may react to form carbon dioxide and water and release energy as heat. So the first law requires that any energy released in the formation of chemical bonds must be used to break other bonds released as heat or light, or stored in some other form. So again, I am repeating this line. It is very, very important that the first law requires that any energy released in the formation of chemical bonds must be used to break other bonds released as heat or light, or stored in some other forms. Now we come to the second law of thermodynamics and the concept of entropy. This is very, very important. So what is entropy? I think being from engineering background, all of you have some idea about what is entropy. The degree of randomness or disorder in a system is called the entropy. So degree of randomness or disorder, and all of you know that heat actually increases this randomness. So it has got a very, very important relation, that is heat and randomness is actually interrelated. Since we know that every energy transfer results in the conversion of some energy to an unusable form such as heat, and since heat that does not do any work goes to increasing the randomness of the universe, we can state a biological version of the second law of thermodynamics. So again, I am repeating that since we know that every energy transfer results in the conversion of some energy unusable form, that is the energy which we cannot use, that is like heat. And since heat that does not do any work was to increase the randomness of the universe, so we can state a biology relevant version of the second law of thermodynamics, like every energy transfer that takes place will increase the entropy of the universe. So very, very important, every energy transfer that takes place will increase the entropy of the universe and reduce the amount of usable energy available to do the work. Again, I am repeating, every energy transfer that takes place will increase the entropy of the universe and reduce the amount of usable energy available to do the work. Or in the most extreme case, leave the overall entropy unchanged. In other words, any process such as a chemical reaction or a set of connected reactions will proceed in a direction that increases the overall entropy of the universe. So again, I am repeating this line. In other words, any process such as a chemical reaction or set of connected reactions will proceed in a direction that increases the overall entropy of this universe. So now the concept of entropy in the biological system. One implication of the second law of thermodynamics is that in order for a process to happen, it must somehow increase the entropy of the universe. This is very important, as we have already seen, that in order for a process to happen, it must somehow increase the entropy of the universe. This may immediately raise some questions for us when we think about living organisms such as ourselves. After all living beings actually are a pretty ordered collection of matter. This is very, very important. Whenever we are talking about the system, which is a collection of matter, we have already seen that. So basically, they are actually ordered collection of matter. Every cell, like every cell in our body, has its own internal organization. And the cells are organized into tissues, the tissues into organs, and the entire body actually maintains a actually the coordinated manifestation of the activities like transport, exchange of important things, gas and nutrients, everything, and help the system to perform the essential activities. Thus, at the first glance, it may not be clear how we, or as a complex system, human being as a very complex system, or a very tiny unicellular bacteria can represent an increase in the entropy of this universe. So this is very, at a first instance, it may appear to be very perplexing that starting from a tiny bacterium to a very, very, very large, very, very complex organized system like the human being like us, how they can actually contribute to the increase in the entropy of this universe. So to clarify this, let's look at the energy changes that takes place in our body. Suppose we are going for a walk, and as we contract the muscles of our limbs, legs, etc., to move our body forward, we are using some chemical energy from the complex molecules. Just like we have already seen that the respiration that helps in the release of energy in the using the glucose and converting it into a kinetic energy. So these we are using chemical energy by breaking the complex molecules. However, we are doing this basically with a very low efficiency. A large fraction of the energy from our fuel sources is simply transformed into heat, and some of the heat keeps our body warm, but much of it actually dissipates into the surrounding environment, because we have actually seen this, because particularly in colder days, in winter season, in colder climate, actually after taking some wholesome meal, suppose a very rich meal of protein-rich diet or some other some sort of alcohol actually, because that actually give rise to because actually it feels makes people warmer. Why? Because portion of actually a portion of the energy actually is not trapped in the form of ATP. We'll find that when we'll be discussing this in the ATP formation, ATP generation, that is the number of ATP formed in the glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain. We'll take up that matter. So that will be at that time it will be more clearer to you. So a large portion of actually the energy is dissipated as heat, and that actually that is the reason why we feel warmer in case we take some good wholesome meal, protein-rich diet, some other things, alcohol. In colder climate, actually that actually keeps us warmer. So a large fraction of the energy that is being derived from the fuel sources is simply transformed into heat. This is very, very important, and that heat actually that dissipates some of the heat, keeps our body warm, and we have deburn much of heat actually dissipates actually into the surrounding environment. Actually, that contributes to the increase in the randomness. So this transfer of heat increases the entropy of the surroundings, as does the fact that we are taking large complex biomolecules and converting them into a lot of simple small molecules such as carbon dioxide and water during during the metabolism. So there is a chapter on metabolism. So there is a relation. So while metabolizing these large complex molecules and considering these as a fuel to power our all the activities like the walking, the jumping, swimming, everything, playing football. So these examples actually holds good for many such activities like whenever you are in motion, any other activities, and the person or organism maintain some basal rate of metabolic activity as well. So this is very, very important when we are there are two important aspects when you are in some active motion or active work. This is one thing, but a considerable part also we relax and we actually are in rest, and at that time also some basal metabolism actually goes on, causing the breakdown of complex molecules to smaller and numerous ones, and the release of heat increasing the entropy of the surrounding. So all these cases have to be considered while we actually look at the heat that is being generated and dissipated to increase the randomness of this universe. Now, we will be moving on to, sorry, in the next part we will be discussing.
So this is all about the second part of my lecture, and that actually focuses on the laws of thermodynamics. And you are very much familiar. Only thing is that we have to actually explain that or interpolate that in case of biological system, how they actually hold true or hold good in our living biological system. So the first law you are very much well aware of, that is conservation of law of conservation of energy. That is the energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. Is very got nothing to say about that. The second law, that is the concept of entropy, that is the disorderness, randomness. And there are, in fact, there are different aspects of the second law, and two or three important aspects that is that which are more relevant for our for the functionality of our biological system. Number one is that the efficiency. Yeah, you know, I think Carnot cycle, better everything, every living being, every human being, every machine, actually they cannot perform at its full potential. In fact, you can, if you can consider some sort of philosophical also, this second a law, or is a really great law, that maybe Rabindranath or Satyajit Ray also, they actually performed maybe a 70 or 80% of their full potential. Such was their efficiency. So they may not be 100% efficient, whatever they possess. Uh, so in terms of their geniusness and versatility and intellect, everything. So average human being also actually work hardly potential below 50%. Each and every machine, something like that. The human system is also a very complicated machine, can perform much below its efficiency. That is very, very important, because the conversion is not foolproof. Any sort of conversion is actually associated with the some sort of the heat that is being produced, and that heat actually goes to increase the randomness, apart from making the system warm. Because I have already cited the very relevant example. You have also experienced that in your life, because after in a colder climate, that the example I have given, ধরো তোমাদের you are very much hungry, and in a colder climate, feeling very chilly, and in that case, you take some a good amount of milk, protein rich diet, then alcohol, everything that actually makes you some sort of warm, or to give you some warm feeling, because the energy conversion, that just as I told you, is not 100% efficient. So here also, because we'll be taking up that matter when we'll be discussing that in case of number of ATP formed in glycolytic respiratory pathway, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain, everything. So that will be, at that time we will be calculating how much of ATP can be formed, and how much can be released as heat. So everything is there in later classes. We will be taking up that. So a considerable part of energy conversion actually is associated with, this is very, very really important concept actually. The conceptual is great, that a part of the energy conversion is always associated with some unusable heat, unusable energy that is being dissipated as heat, and that heat goes to increasing the randomness, because এটা conceptual ব্যাপার, এটা যে অলওয়েজ একটা যেন মুভ করছে একটা randomness এর দিকে। সেটা তো আমরা দেখতেই পাচ্ছি যে কি হচ্ছে। Maybe all these are actually proceeding toward that end also, মানে only. That is the ultimately the whole universe will be under utter desire and utter randomness, and that is the end of the world. That is the thing. So you can envisage like that. So it is really sort of a conceptual and philosophical one that we can have from this second law. And so these are the relevant part in case of when we consider biological system, that is the concept of energy conversion, which is not efficient, and our system is a very ordered system, and also it also tends towards more randomness. So entropy actually increases over a period of time. Actually you can show that, you can also explain that, because as we grow old, initially there is a peak, and as we grow old after a period of time, the if you put that in a curve, then it actually flattens and it falls. That is the anabolic activity actually. Initial stages of life, it actually much more higher than the catabolic activities, and after a certain, suppose 30-35, I mean maximum 40 years of age, তারপরে কিন্তু আস্তে আস্তে catabolic activities become predominant. So catabolic activities become predominant. So that is some sort of disorderliness. So this is purely, you can think from that angle also. Just এটা একটা imagination ব্যাপার, যে you have to explain all these happening in our, suppose free radical induced damage. The free radicals very, very important role to play in aging process. That is why people, particularly the ladies, এখন ছেলেরাও করে অ্যালোভেরা ক্রিম টিম মাখে, এবং always you are actually prescribed to have very antioxidant rich diet, flavonoids like your vitamin C, vitamin E, fresh fruit, green tea, medicated tea, all these things actually, nutritionally enriched diet. Carrot, gajarটা খুব ভালো, then capsicum and bell peppers, all these colored, all very, very rich in antioxidant and flavonoids. So they actually help, actually to some extent, definitely, but you cannot prevent the inevitable. So this is all about your second law of thermodynamics and some of the implications that you can explain. Again, we'll be taking up this issue. So we'll just move on to the third, because the third you just listen today, because the time is limiting up to class, up to 12 noon. So just listen the third my presentation, please listen. আচ্ছা, তোমাদের অসুবিধা হচ্ছে না তো কোনো শুনতে? হ্যালো?
No, sir. Clear us.
Okay, very much. Okay, thank you so much. Just listen to the third third for এইটা বেটার আছে, এইটা শোনো।
So we will now take up the free energy concept. I think you have got some idea about the free energy, and this is basically the amount of energy that is available during a chemical reaction to do some cellular work. So it is a property or some sort of it is a ability that free energy actually renders to some cell or to some system to perform some work. And this free energy concept was first developed by Willard Gibbs in 1870s, and that is why it is more popularly known as Gibbs free energy. So whenever you find that free energy, it is generally described as Gibbs free energy, and this energy is a thermodynamic quantity, just as I told you, which can be used to determine if a reaction is spontaneous. So the implication of the Gibbs free energy is that it denotes whether the reaction actually can proceed or can in a spontaneously or spontaneity or of the reaction it denotes. And definitely that is a very, very important concept so far as energetics of chemical reactions, energetics of chemical reactions are concerned. And so the change in free energy of a reaction, you can have, in other words, you can say like that, the change in free energy of a reaction combines the effects of changes in enthalpy, that is the total heat content of a system. You have come across, I think you all already know these terms, that is entropy, that is the degree of randomness, that increases due to the heat, unusable heat when there is some conversion occurs. So the heat which is generated and remains unusable, that goes to increase the randomness, that is your entropy. And now this is a term enthalpy. So the change in free energy of a reaction combines the effects of changes in enthalpy, that is the total heat content of a system. Very, very important. I am again repeating, the change in free energy or delta G of a reaction combines the effects of changes in enthalpy, that is total heat content of a system, which is equal to internal energy of the system plus the product of pressure and volume by the heat released or absorbed during a chemical reaction, that is delta H. And entropy, so the degree of disorder resulting from a reaction, delta S. So there is equation, it is being given in your in the material being provided. D is absolute temperature, delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. So this is the usual chemical reaction for the Gibbs free energy, and all chemical reactions spontaneously proceed in the energetically favorable direction, accompanied by a decrease in free energy, that is if delta G is negative. So this is a very, very useful concept, just as I told you, that all chemical reactions spontaneously can proceed spontaneously in the energetically favorable direction, which is accompanied by a decrease in free energy when delta G is less than zero. So this is a very, very useful condition, and so we'll be trying to actually check, or we will actually try, we will actually like to apply this concept to one of the most important type of reaction, that is the chemical reactions catalyzed by enzymes. So as we have already studied the enzyme, so it gives free energy with relation to enzymes, and also it is there in your syllabus. So it is very, very relevant also from that angle. So Gibbs free energy is a useful thermodynamic function for understanding enzymes. This is the topic, that is the Gibbs free energy is also a very, very useful measure or thermodynamic function for the for understanding of enzyme action and enzyme activities. We have already seen, we have already observed some important mechanism, like your first of all the enzyme substrate complex formation, that is one aspect. But regarding the activation energy requirement for the reaction, that is the activation energy, as we know that enzymes actually lowers the activation energy, thus helping the process to initiate and to accomplish and to proceed in a favorable way. So enzymes speed up the rate of chemical reactions, but the properties of the reaction, whether it can take place at all. So whether it can take place at all and the degree to which the enzyme accelerates the reaction depends on energy differences between reactants and products. And again repeating, enzymes speed up the rate of chemical reactions, but the properties of the reaction, whether it can take place at all, and the degree to which the enzyme accelerates the reaction depends on energy differences between reactants and products. So we all of us actually know the reactants on the left hand side that actually have some sort of interaction and give rise to products. That is very important, because products we are actually all we are looking for. So Gibbs free energy is a thermodynamic property, that is a measure of useful energy, or the energy that is capable of doing work. To understand how enzymes operate, we need to consider only two such type of thermodynamic properties of the reaction. Just as I told you, the free energy difference between the products and reactants. Just as I told you that free energy difference between the products and the reactants, and the energy required to initiate the conversion of reactants into products, that is some sort of activation energy. We have also discussed this, but in the light of the Gibbs free energy concept, this is being discussed. So again, I am repeating these important lines, that to understand how enzymes operate, we need to consider only two thermodynamic properties of the reaction. One is the free energy difference delta G between the products and reactants, and number two is the energy required to initiate the conversion of reactants into products. So the former, that is the free energy difference between products and reactants, actually determines whether the reaction will take place spontaneously, and while the later, that is the energy required to initiate the reaction, which determines the rate of reaction. So that actually determines the rate of reaction. Enzyme affects only the second one, that is the activation energy, as you all know. Let us now review some of these principles of thermodynamics applied to the enzyme system and enzyme reactions. So the free energy change provides information. Please remember these very, very important points one by one. So the free energy change provides information about the spontaneity, that is whether a reaction can proceed spontaneously, but not the rate of reaction. So this is the free energy can give you some idea about that, whether they change, whether the free energy change will give you some idea about whether the reaction will occur or proceed spontaneously, but it will not give you any clue to whether what type of rate of reaction it will be. So number one, a reaction can take place spontaneously only if delta G is negative. Number one important point, a reaction can take place spontaneously only if delta G is negative. Such reactions are said to be exergonic. We'll be taking up these difference between exergonic and endergonic reactions later talk. So a reaction can take place spontaneously only if delta G is negative. Such reactions are said to be exergonic. Number two, a system is at equilibrium and no net change can take place if delta G is zero. Very, very important once again. That is, a system is at equilibrium and no net change occurs if delta G is zero. A reaction cannot take place spontaneously if delta G is positive. An input of free energy is required to drive such a reaction. This reaction.
So we need some more time because time is up for today. Because I think Rita Ma'am is sending you the link to join class. No worry. I will be Shubhayan and Bonani are, I think, both are present. So you take note of today's attendance because this is the last day of this month, and please update. And I will be circulating to you these lectures so that you can also hear the rest of the students who are not attending. Achha, one important thing is that there is an order from the college authority, but I am not actually here, but conversant with that videos on mode actually classes will be going to be held. So I do not know from your department, but some other department, IT department, have already received a mail. I do not know what about CSE. So I just let you know. I think that will be communicated to you also from the head of the departments, corresponding head of the departments. So please keep it in mind. Maybe at some times we may require to switch on the video. So you should be prepared actually for actually coming in the screen on the screen and properly, in a proper attire. So that is the thing. Thank you, Shubham, Bonani, and all other people.
Thank you, sir.
কি বলছে কে একজন কে কি বলতে যাচ্ছিল হ্যালো থ্যাংক ইউ বনানি হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে আর কে একটা কি বলতে যাচ্ছিল somebody likes to say something on this no